number 10 Louisville at Miami. So the storyline, honestly, in this game is Louisville. Again, I said before there are 9 teams I think are still kind of in the running for the college football playoff. Louisville technically is one of those 9 teams, I would say, with 1 loss on the season. If they win out, if they beat Florida State, who knows? I still think they need some stuff to happen in order to get in, but who knows if they do that. Louisville this week, they're kind of college football Cinderella, man. I mean, they started the year unranked. Now they're 9-1. Now they're number 10 in the country in Jeff Brom's first year as head coach. With a win against Miami, Louisville will clinch a spot in the ACC championship game against Florida State. This would be the first time ever that Louisville is playing in the ACC championship game if they win this game. And also a victory would obviously keep their playoff hopes alive as well. But Louisville is only 1-point favorites right now against Miami. Miami just went toe-to-toe with Florida State this past weekend. So it's not going to be easy for Louisville. And if they lose this game, if Miami does pull off the upset, North Carolina is still very much alive in the ACC championship hunt, because if Louisville loses, North Carolina has to beat Clemson and NC State, and then North Carolina jumps Louisville into the ACC title game. So a lot on the line for the Cardinals in this game, Dalton.
Big time. And I think actually your scenario of them maybe stealing the 4 spot is kind of straightforward when you've got, so let's think about it. Louisville runs the table. What they're going to need, if I'm plotting this out right, Georgia runs the table because that's implied that they'll beat Bama, right? Washington runs the table. All right, that's a spot. And then the Big Ten champ gets a spot.
Yep.
Right? So the debate then would be, and I think the one other thing they might need is Texas to lose.
Yeah, I think
right? If you get a Texas loss mixed in there, let's just say they rematch with Oklahoma or something and Oklahoma beats them again or what have you, especially with Jonathan Brooks out, I think you would be debating Louisville versus a 1-loss Ohio State or Michigan. And I actually think it's a really good case, especially, to be honest, against Michigan. Yeah. You go Michigan at that point, all they'll have done is beaten Penn State.
Yep.
Who we knew walking in we're better than Louisville shut out Duke. They beat Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. They'll have a Florida State win. I'll be honest with you. A 1-loss Louisville and a 1-loss Michigan, I think Louisville, if we're going on resume
would get in,
should get in. I don't know if they'll actually go on resume because we've seen that we don't know what the standards are for these rankings. So and obviously Michigan would get better TV ratings, and I'm sure that's part of it. But no, I think it's not as complex as you might think. I think they're very much alive. I mean, this is step 1, and Miami's not playing particularly. They played well last week, but I think the rivalry factors into that. Miami's not playing their best football, and Louisville plays much more fundamentally sound football more consistently than Miami. This is going to be an interesting game.
Really interesting game. So what is the matchup that you're really looking forward to in this Louisville-Miami game?
I think for me, there's a spotlight on Louisville's defense. I think the first time we had them against Notre Dame, we kind of spotlighted like Jawar Jordan and Jack Plummer's like inconsistent, but like sometimes finds big plays. We went kind of the offensive route. Defensively, they're really, really darn good. Okay, yeah. Ashton Gelati, one of just 2 Power 5 edge players, along with Jack Sawyer, with 81-plus grades in the pass rush and run defense. All right, just a wicked, consistent player. Best run D grade actually in the Power 5, 6th in pressures. He's a terrific player. They're edge players, okay, as a group. Where is he here? They're 3rd best in the FBS.
Wow.
Okay, so they've got a team designed to rush the passer first. Second, they're corners. Okay, Quincy Riley and their group of corners. Mm-hmm. All right, 9th best in the FBS. I'm going to give you some stats on Quincy Riley real quick. Since week 5, all right, it's been 6 games. Ready? Into his coverage, 4 for 21, 58 yards, 2 interceptions, and a 0 passer rating.
Wow.
Lights out. This team, they have 11 players with at least 100 snaps grading above a 70 on their defense. And obviously those are the 2 stars. They've got a really, really balanced defense that is, to be honest with you, it's actually Jawar Jordan gets the spotlight and what he did against Notre Dame and all that, and now you've got 2 backs. You've got Garendo too, who's playing great. Their defense is actually, for as much as it's Jeff Brom and Jack Plummer and all, their defense is the driving force of this team, and it's the reason they can play with teams like Notre Dame and Duke, who have wicked defenses. And Miami's got a really good defense. Their run D could cause Jawar Jordan some problems, but you've got a team in Miami who's got the 7th worst pass grade in the country over the last 3 weeks. 12 interceptions since week 6 is the most in the country. We've talked about Van Dyke and how kind of terribly fitting it was that he came in for the last drive and threw an interception to end the game. I mean, that's Miami football right now. Is their defense tries as hard as they can to keep him in it, and their offense just turns the ball over. It's just not fundamentally sound football. And the same thing can happen against Louisville. They are a top 12 to 15 defense right now, if not better. Their defense has really, really come on in ACC play, and it's a dangerous unit.
It absolutely is. I think they're 6th right now in EPA per play. I mean, they have been fantastic. Ron English, one of their defensive coordinators, he was just nominated for the Broyles Award, which we'll get into later. Our guy Kirby Moore not getting even one of the 58 nominations is insane. And neither did Jesse Minter, the Michigan defensive coordinator, who Michigan might have the best defense in the country right now. So that's insane to me that he doesn't get a nod either. But my big story, my big matchup, at least I'm watching, is okay. How does Tyler Van Dyke respond to getting benched, man? Van Dyke was, in the first half of the season, Tyler Van Dyke was awesome. You see these stats right here. In the first 6 games versus his last really 3 games for him, in the first 6 games, he's the 3rd best passing grade in the country. Over the last 3 or so, he's at 130th in the country. Big time throw rate, 6th in the country in the first half of the season. Since then, 104th. Turnover worthy play rate, 33rd in the country over the first half of the season, 136th since then. This guy went from one of the top quarterbacks in the country, showing again why he was a projected first-round pick before last season. Then he just fell off a cliff. He was benched against Florida State in favor of a true freshman in Emory Williams. But Emory Williams just suffered a season-ending arm injury in that loss to Florida State. So that means Tyler Van Dyke is back in the lineup now. And like you mentioned before, this is not a defense that you want to get right against. You're not going to get right against Louisville. This is a really, really good defense. Like I said, 6th in the country in EPA per play this season. So my big matchup I'm looking at is just, okay, what TVD do we get on Saturday? Do we get the one that looked amazing in the Texas A&M game and amazing in the first half of the season? Or do we get the one who had to be benched because he was playing like one of the worst quarterbacks in the country over the last few weeks?
Yeah, it's the big question, and that last number in that graphic is the big one, the turnover-worthy plays, because it's just he's a vertical passer, and he's got a rifle of an arm, and he thinks he can fit the ball into every window, and lately that's just not happening. Yeah. I mean, he forces balls into tight windows that he really shouldn't. They don't have the receiving core, not like right. So I told you Jordan Travis was the highest graded passer into tight windows, but he's got freaks to throw to, right? And for Miami, I really like Restrepo, but he's a slot guy, and they don't have guys like that on the outside who will win all those battles when you're throwing balls in tight windows. Okay, a lot of their offense is based on the deep passing game, which is great when it works, but it can be a problem when you have a quarterback that doesn't move, pass protection that comes and goes, and receivers that don't always win deep. It's a combination of things especially against this defense they're about to play. That's an issue that can really rush the passer, that can really cover on the outside. I think Miami, the big thing is they have to, if Van Dyke doesn't turn the ball over, they obviously have a great chance. I think any team works like that, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say Van Dyke turns it over twice. I think for Miami to win this game, they're blitz heavy. They've got some things that could bother Louisville's offense. They're blitz heavy. The run defense, the best part of their team. And if they can force Jack Plummer into mistakes, which he hasn't made a lot lately, but he still has some gunslinger at him, especially late in the play, they need to find a way to create. If Miami, I think the easiest road for them to win this game, and it sounds basic because it kind of is, win the turnover battle. Yeah. On both sides of the ball. They're going to have to force a couple, and they really need Van Dyke to just play safer football. If he goes in there, obviously, and turns the ball over 3 times again, it's just not going to happen. The reason, and Williams didn't play great last week. Jacoby George was spectacular, but Williams on the whole wasn't great. But the one thing he didn't do, I don't believe he had a turnover, or maybe one.
I have to look back, but yeah, I thought, for a true freshman, I was pretty impressed by him, honestly. Against
He was, if conservative mostly, he was at least safe with the football, which gave them a chance. Their defense too, Miami is the better part of their team. It's better than their offense, and they need to not give this game away. I mean, we've seen too many games. Pretty much all of their losses they've just given away. Miami, there's a case to be made that they should have had a lot better season, but they could win. They could win this game if they can find a way to win the turnover battle.
Yeah. So Emory Williams did not have a turnover in the at least he didn't have a pick in the Florida State game, but he did have one big time throw, one turnover worthy play. So he didn't play great, don't get me wrong, but again, as a true freshman going against the fourth best team in college football. So that's, whatever you can get out of him, you can get. And like I said, they only lost by 7 in that game. So ultimately, Dalton, though, do you think, it's only a 1-point spread right now. It's a very close spread. Do you think that Louisville keeps their playoff hopes alive and clinches a spot in the ACC title game? Or do you think that North Carolina is still alive for the ACC title game?
I do think this is going to be tight because of the style more so of play of these two teams. I wonder how much got taken out of Miami last week, the rivalry game, the ultra close finish at the last minute, the back and forth nature of that game. And to be honest with you, Miami's not like the greatest home field advantage ever down there. So I like Louisville in this game. I think their defense is going to travel, and I think Ashton Gelati is going to be the best player on the field. I think Tyler Van Dyke doesn't move. And if you can get pressure on him, especially, and he starts forcing balls off his back foot, you start winning ball games because he starts putting balls where they shouldn't be. I think Louisville's pass defense from back to front, honestly, is the difference in this game. Now, I totally see the path where Miami could win, and that involves Van Dyke playing a clean game. But we haven't seen him do that in a long time.
Yeah.
So, if he goes out there and played like he did in week 2 or 3 against Texas A&M, yeah, they'll probably win, but we haven't seen that guy in 2 months. So I'm not going with it. I do think it's going to be a really rough defensive game. Jawar Jordan's going to get what he can, and I'll take Louisville 24-20 in this game.
Yeah, I'm taking Louisville as well, 27-23. I think it will be a defensive game for sure. I do think, Jawar Jordan maybe could get a few creases and make some plays off that. But, yeah, Miami, Tyler Van Dyke. I like what Miami's got offensively outside of, Van Dyke just being a roller coaster this season. I think their offensive line has done really well this year. Restrepo, you mentioned him before. He's been a really, really good slot receiver for them. They have a decent ground game as well. I think it'll be close. But I do think Louisville will ultimately come out on top 27-23, and I think Louisville will clinch a spot in the ACC championship game for the first time in program history.